If I were the marrying kind, which thank the Lord I'm not, sir, the kind of man that I would be a rugby fullback. I find touch, she find touch, we both find touch together. We'd be alright in the middle of the night, finding touch together. If I were the marrying kind, which thank the Lord I'm not, sir, the kind of man that I would be a wing three-quarter.
And here we are, the jolly game of rugby getting discussed here on the Deep End Broadcasting Network. This is Initiate the Contact. Stephen Murray here with the coach, Dayle Runner, broadcasting live from the beautiful shores of Virginia Beach, Virginia, the United States of America. It is 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and this is your show on Deep End Broadcasting to discuss everything Major League Rugby, and then we'll talk about some stuff down on the farm as well. Dayle Runner, the coach, hosting the show with me. Dayle, what's up, man? How's it going?
I'm doing fantastic, Steve. How are you doing tonight?
We're doing very well. Very well. You've started practice already, coach, right? You had your first practice last night, and you had 32 players turn out, right?
Yes, we did. We had 32, which I'm real excited. When me and John Lawrence took over the team last spring, at first we were a little aggravated, but it worked out for the best because me and John have wanted this forever, and we finally got our opportunity. And me and John are not going to put up with nothing. We're just going to win games, and our whole goal is to win the national championship at Division III, and eventually we're going to move up. It's going to take some time, but that's what it's all about. We played this game 30 years, and I'm looking to dominate.
Man, audio check good, coming through loud and clear. Dayle, man, I mean, how about that? You're looking to dominate. Let's get the viewing audience. A lot of people in our area know who you are, but everyone out there in the world, let's get them familiar with you. Let's just talk about your rugby background real quick. And man, I appreciate you hosting the show with me. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Coming up, we have Alex Diegel from the Rugby Network. Okay. He will be on to discuss all the teams in the Eastern Conference of Major League Rugby. And then we'll talk about the Western Conference. Of course, Major League Rugby is our focus. And then we'll shoot on down to the farm and look at some of the other stuff and other hot topics to note as well. But Dayle, how about you? Your background, you're Newport News, thick and thin. You bleed Newport News Mariner blood, and I can appreciate that as I was born in Newport News myself. In fact, played several matches on the old Newport News pitch right in front of the Riverside Hospital, right there on the corner of J. Clyde Morris, right there across from Christopher Newport. Let's go ahead and tell the audience and the viewers out there a little bio about you. Give them a feel.
All right. Thank you. So I was at shore duty. I'm retired Navy. I did 21 years. I've been retired since 2003. I was at shore duty in Norfolk, and John Lawrence, who was a machinist mate first class, and I was a bosun mate first class, and he was trying to recruit me because I was playing flag football, Virginia Beach leagues, and I was playing on base and everything. I was running full court. I was doing it all. So John came up to me, and he's like, "Hey, have you ever tried rugby?" And I was like, "No, I don't know nothing about it." So he talked to me for 6 weeks, okay? And I turned him down a few times. So there's some things we can't say on the air, but you
can say most things on this air.
He basically screwed with my ego, which I couldn't have as a younger man. He called me out in front of like 25 people. So I went out and checked it out on a Thursday night over in Newport News Rugby. We were playing at Warwick High School. It was 10 on 10. He said, just tackle and run straight. And I said, okay. This was in September of 93. And he goes, we got a tournament this weekend at Ed Lee Cup up in Richmond. And I was just like, I don't know nothing about the game, man. But, we didn't have that many players. We had like 20. And some of them couldn't play, and I was like, all right, I'll go check it out. So the first time I touched the ball, I went 70 meters and scored. And I'm standing up in the
That's a good way to start a career, huh?
Yeah, it was. But it was crazy because I'm standing up in the end zone, the try zone. And one of my old boys, Marty Edridge, he says, Dayle, touch it down. Dayle, touch it down. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? This guy for James Rivers running in on me. And I just naturally fell to the ground and touched it down. And they were like, you have to touch the ball down every time you score. And I didn't know that.
Isn't it amazing how many times you see that moment happen? I mean, you can't tell your new players enough. When you get across that line, put that ball down. I mean, you've seen it a million times, and you've seen it actually fail as well with the new players. I knew right off the bat. Of course, the term touchdown comes from football, comes from rugby itself. I mean, think about it. If you're in a football game and you get a touchdown, what the hell does that mean? Right? You have to touch the ball to the ground.
But you know what?
You did not know
that's a great analogy because – and that's something you should teach your rugby players first thing. And I always say the first three things you should teach your rugby players. One, you have to tackle properly from the thighs to the lower chest. Wrap and take over. No leaving your feet going below the knees and no high tackling. So that eliminates all those.
Run straight. Don't run sideways. That's another one.
No dancing. We got a guy on our team. I love him to death, Pads. But he could dance more than Don Cornelius at Soul Train. Dude, run straight, man, because that's all we need. Because you're not going to get around 4 or 5 players.
Now, come on, Dayle. I've seen you with some pretty swift feet there. Fly half with that little ball fake stutter step that you like to throw out there.
Yeah, you know, Johnny gives me a hard time playing in the backfield. But you know what's funny is fly half is actually like playing option quarterback in some sense. So if you got natural ability, if you played that before, you know what to do with the ball. To me, scrum half is the toughest position as far as those two. But they have to be on the same page, okay? And in lower level rugby, it's all about all of it is maintaining possession, okay, literally. If you do that and you're in better shape than the other team and you can tackle, you'll win 85% of your games. Anybody tries to tell me otherwise, it's crazy because I've learned so much now. It sounds crazy. I know the game plan, but when you're coaching, you see it as a different level now that you're not playing and coaching. When you're just telling people what to do and you're sitting there and you see it in the game and it's just like, wow, this game is so easy, but they make it so complicated.
How about football players and their tackling? A lot of times, doesn't it make you scream when you don't see a football player wrap and you just see him kind of tries to launch himself at a player and he bounces right off and that guy just kind of keeps trucking and moving. Like wrap him around the legs.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever watch it, right? You know, and you don't want to, annihilate these guys too much. But the biggest problem is you got these color commentators talking about, well, he led with the shoulder. Yeah, but his arms were crossed or his arms were down by his side and he left his feet and he went at the knees. Now, if he comes in and wraps up properly, you eliminate these injuries. I mean, you're going to have injuries in everything you do, but it's going to eliminate that. And until they do that in football, it's not going to change. I don't want to hear you're taking the safety out of the game and you're doing anything. You're putting safety in the game by tackling properly. And I hear people, you can't bring people like Derrick Henry down like that. Oh, yeah, you can. If them legs are wrapped, I've never seen a guy hop down the field 50 yards yet with legs wrapped. If he is, I need them kind of vitamins he's taking because that dude is extraordinary right there. But on a real note, rugby is way safer than football, totally safer. And that's why people at my age can still play, old boys, in rugby, old boys is considered 35 and above. And, I started division side up till I was 55. But, I never had any major injuries. So I keep going at it. I've played higher level rugby. I've played D1, and I've played some minutes in Super League overseas, which it's not as fun because all they do is kick the ball back and forwards. So the conditioning part I didn't have no problem with. I've always done that. I've run back and forwards. But unless you get into these matches where it's more contact, like lower level, that's more fun to me. That's just my take on rugby as a whole.
What do you say? So it's early in February. It's still cold in a lot of places.
Right.
All right. You might have someone laying on the couch there. They got practice coming up and they're sitting there like, yeah, you know what? I haven't been working out. I don't want to go out to practice. I'll join them in a week or 2 or 3 or whatever. That really gets a player behind the curve, doesn't it? What can you say? I would say just to motivate anyone out there on any level, really. Give a little motivational speech.
Okay. So I'm going to use my basketball background. I played 35 years religiously full court. So there was this guy when I was like 25, 26, and I was stationed over at Little Creek. And this guy was like 52, and he was running full court with us. And he said, man, I admire your conditioning, man. You really get up and down that court. And that really made me feel good coming from a guy who was 52. And here I am like 23, 24, you know, and conditioning's always been big to me because I wrestled, and I'm not going to get outdone on conditioning. That's my whole goal. So what I tell people is, you know, like when I recruit players, they should see me playing at 60, and that should motivate them to come out and work out. And sometimes you can get a guy to do it, but then other people don't want to do it. So everybody's different at that thing. So I have to stay on people and almost, like, for better words, nag them and make them do the basics. Like, go to a track, run 10 50-meter sprints. That's it. Do that 3 days a week and do some weightlifting. And if you got to walk to get off a few pounds to help yourself out, do so. But there's always some kind of workout to do to stay in shape. So when it comes to rugby, see, the difference between rugby and football, the main difference is conditioning. So when you tackle somebody, you have to roll away, get back on your feet. When you get tackled, you got to place the ball and then try to get out of there eventually. See, in football, you just lay on top of them. It's the next down. Okay? So rugby, if you've got to be in better shape, so think about this. 15s rugby is 80 minutes. So you have to condition, specialize in conditioning for 80 minutes. Then you have 7s rugby, which is 7 minutes, 1 minute rest, 7 minutes. So I tell everybody, go to a track, run half to 2/3 pace. Every 200 yards, get down and do 5 push-ups. Do that for a half an hour. And everybody's like, well, that shouldn't be hard. But after 2 laps, they're gassed because you can run the laps. You're a 20-year-old, you can run them 10 laps. But when you have to get down every 200 yards and do 5 push-ups, that makes a big difference because you're changing the muscle atrophy of what you're doing on the rugby pitch. And that's where a lot of guys fail. So when you look at Division II and Division III, if you're in better shape, that means you'll be able to tackle and be in correct position. If you do those 3 things, you'll win 90% of your games. There's nobody that's going to be kicking 60 meters from one side of the pitch to the other. I've never seen it. Even my man Evan at Virginia Men back in the day could only kick 40. And that guy could place the ball better than Division I players. So to me, kicking's overrated. Maintain possession. And if you're in better shape, you're going to win these matches. And that's my whole goal. And that's basically it in a nutshell there, Steve.
How about, and how about just getting in shape, period? I mean, even if you kind of go into the season out of shape, by the end of it, you were like, man, I feel so much better. I'm not sore like I was the first 3 games. You know, I feel a lot leaner. I feel quicker. I move around the pitch better. I mean, there's a lot to say about that too, right?
Yes, sir. So when you get to the off season, so you're not going to train, obviously. Well, some people do like myself, but not everybody is going to train like you do it.
Yeah, and Dayle doing beach run 100s, 200, 300, 400s all the time too, by the way. But go ahead.
Yeah. So what I tell everybody, like I said, go do 10 50s, 3 or 4 days a week. You know, do 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 15 on push-ups. You don't need to do 50 push-ups. Just like in working out, you don't need to do 50 reps of this, that, or the other. Lower reps, because you're not going to break away 15 times in a game. You're going to break away 1 or 2 times. So you need to expend that energy in lower level workouts. So a lot of people work out improperly. You get all these guys that do all this benching, they got all this big chest, but yet they got these toothpick legs, and they come out there and they get uprooted after the first 5 minutes. Everybody's going to be hyped the first 5 minutes. But if you ain't got that base, you ain't doing deadlifts, straight leg deadlifts, power cleans in rugby, you can get blown off the ruck. I'm going to let you know it. If you're doing them guys going to come in there with, they do all that benching like 400 pounds, but can't squat 200. They ain't going to last 10 minutes in a match.
You're giving me hope here, Dayle. You're giving me hope here.
Yeah.
I do all that on the regular. Okay. All right. So good stuff. We're going to get to the Down on the Farm segment later on after our guest, but I think we need to go ahead and take our quick commercial break. And you guys out there, if you're new viewers or listeners, please appreciate the commercials because I make them up myself with the staff around here. So know that they are important to us and not too long, okay, as well. So we'll go ahead and do a commercial break. When we get back, we'll get on Alexander Diegel from the Rugby Network, and we're going to start breaking down some of these Major League Rugby teams. All right, we got 6 of them, 6 teams in the East: Toronto, Nola, Atlanta, New York, New England, and Old DC Glory. How about that, Dale? That's a good list. I rang it right off there. So we are trying to get into rugby midseason form ourselves here. We need to find out what these teams are about. You can catch all the games on the Rugby Network as well whenever they come on. So go ahead, and for free too, Dale. You can get that for free. So we'll be back right after this.
The kind of man that I would be a rugby fly half. I whip it out, she whip it out, we both whip it out together. We'd be alright in the middle of the night, whipping it out together. If I were the marrying kind, which thank the Lord I'm not, sir. The kind of man that I would be a rugby scrum half. I put it in, she put it in, we both put it in together. We'd be alright in the middle of the night, putting it in together.
Hey, does your home have algae or stains on the siding? Is there grime built up on your deck or brick patio? Coastal Pressure Washing Services has a warranty of professional services. From pressure washing to window cleaning to deck and fence staining, as well as dryer vent cleaning, you got it all. Call Coastal Pressure Washing at area code 757-439-9810 or visit our website at coastalpressurewashing.net. Again, call Coastal Pressure Washing at area code 757-439-9810 or visit our website at coastalpressurewashing.net.
Tired of your swimming pool's diatomaceous earth pool filter, the constant cleaning, green pool, cloudy water? I thought this was supposed to be clean. Trust your swimming pool's water quality with a custom sand filter install. A clean, easy solution for your swimming pool operations. Contact Dependable Solutions at 757-354-5517. Do you want to advertise with Deep End Broadcasting? Send us an email at deepend757@yahoo.com. That's deepend757@yahoo.com.
Know your gambling limits. Don't ever bet what you can't cover. Wagering on sports is only fun when you do it the right way. Not every bet will win. When you get on a bad run, know it and avoid trouble. Know your gambling limits.
Control your alcohol. Don't fight. Don't drink and drive. Your one punch could kill someone. It happens. If you're behind the wheel, you may think you are fine, but then the other driver is under the influence of texting, and then you are done. Control your alcohol.
Family owned and operated, CP
Hear you loud and clear.
Cafe and Raw Bar specializes in delicious cuisine, refreshing drinks, and a laid-back atmosphere. We opened our doors in 1995 and have enjoyed being a place to either relax or celebrate ever since. Whether you are in the mood to indulge in a great meal with your friends and family or watch the game, we promise that our inventive menu, attentive service, and skilled bartenders will have you truly satisfied. Both of our locations have spacious outdoor patios for enjoying the breeze and catching a little sun. Our friendly staff at CP Shuckers will make your next dining experience a pleasant one by delivering personal care. We are open until 2 a.m. Full menu will be served until 10 p.m. and late night limited menu until 1 a.m. For larger parties, please give the location of choice a call. Pacific Avenue, 757-425-8676 or Shore Drive, 757-412-2929. More information at cpshuckers.com. Thank you for your continued support and have a shucking good time. Tired of your swimming pool's diatomaceous earth pool filter? The constant cleaning, green pool, cloudy water? I thought this was supposed to be clean. Trust your swimming pool's water quality with a custom sand filter install. A clean, easy solution for your swimming pool operations. Contact Dependable Solutions at 757-354-5517.
This is the Deep End Broadcasting Network.
If I were the marrying kind, which thank the Lord I'm not, sir, the kind of man that I would be a rugby scrum half. I put it in, she put it in, we both put it in together. We'd be all right in the middle of the night, putting it in together.
And this is Initiate the Contact here on the Deep End Broadcasting Network. Stephen Murray here with the coach, Dayle Runner, and we are honored to have on the Major League Rugby reporter for the Rugby Network, Mr. Alexander Diegel. Alex, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
Hey, guys, I'm great. Thanks a lot for having me. Steven, Dayle, great to be here.
Great, man. Let's break down the East. A couple questions. In fact, we get a new team today, right? Miami. They're going to field a team next year. I heard Major League Rugby announce about that. You got any tidbits about that? Has that happened today?
That is the breaking news. Honestly, I don't have a lot outside of that. I've just kind of been waiting to see it official. We saw, the Twitter account come. It hadn't been verified by MLR yet. A lot of rumblings on Reddit. So I just kind of been tracking, waiting for the official news. Seeing the comps to Willie Beeman's Miami Sharks, and hearing some noise from the Sail Sharks. So it'll be interesting to see how everything goes down. I'm excited to have them aboard.
The one thing that comes immediately to my mind, Coach Dayle, is that they're going to need someone to handle their play-by-play duties down the road, right? So we need to potentially throw our name in a hat for that, because, laying on the beaches of Florida as an old, busted-up Ford rugby player is, not the worst thing in the world after retirement. And on that note, Al, we gained one, but we lost two teams, Austin and Los Angeles. If you're not up to speed on that, update the viewers, if you can, just kind of briefly what happened to those two teams.
Sure. Obviously, as you said, both LA and Austin, the Gilchrist-owned teams have been removed from the competition, which is a pretty big shame. There were two of the bigger name brand teams. Austin really seemed to have connected with the community there. And LA, of course, had just held up the Shield in 2021. And we had the show on Fox Sports with Austin. So, but that being said, I dug, banged my head against the wall, tried to get as much inside information as I could. It was hard to get anything of official word other than a violation of league rules, which was frustrating. I would appreciate a little bit more transparency there coming out of the league.
Yeah.
Again, this is just off the record speculation, but the general kind of rumor mongering is that it was, violation of salary cap issues. Again, cannot confirm that. All we got, as much as I talked to everyone I could, it was the same response, violation of league rules.
Oh, yeah. All right. Interesting stuff. So those two teams, any chance that they can come back down the road, or is that going to be basically it for them?
It certainly won't be under the same ownership. I would love to see Austin come back. I mean, LA was great while they were there. I don't think, it just kind of presented more as a glam team where that, came and, got in your Billy Meekses and Adam Ashley Coopers. And, it was pretty safe bet that they were going to win that first year. And they were well on their way toward a title defense in year two. But Austin, on the other hand, really had been, I really felt for that team, really had, like I said, been connected to the community. Noxie was becoming something of an MLR off the field star. They'd gone through rebrandings. You had players that had been there from the start, from like the 0-16 season, and they're finally ready to get into the playoffs. They'd qualified for the playoffs as the number one or number two seed off the top of my head. and then the whole the rug was pulled out for
Yeah,
them.
everything unraveled, right? Okay.
Yeah. I was happy to see Sam Harris, their head coach, quickly pick up with Chicago as well as a lot of their key players. But again, I personally felt like they had done as good of a job connecting with their community, their non-rugby community, as any in MLR, and I think that's the big loss of that whole thing.
And we'll get into the Chicago Hounds next week when we do the West preview. In
Sure.
fact, I think we have a player potentially coming on. We've been coming on from that team. So we'll get someone on, but the Chicago Hounds actually may be the player that we have on. Okay, let's get back to this season. Let's try to get everyone up to speed the best that we can. Consider this, everyone, your preseason preview of the East. All right, we'll try to dive into it a little bit here. Each of these 6 teams. Rugby New York, they are the defending champions. Can't really say they came out of nowhere, but they did have 5 losses. They really played well when they had to. They got hot at the right time. They beat Seattle in the final 30-15. They beat New England, who was probably the favorite at that point the week before. Coach James Simple is back. They have a new venue to play on. Seems like they have the same amount of core players. They're excited about what they can do again this year. What else can you tell us about them, Alex?
Yeah, you hit the nail on it. I mean, you can't say they came out of nowhere because they've been to the semifinals and the playoffs, the 2 completed seasons they were in before that, 2019 and 2021. But as far as, I believe they were the 3 seed, obviously we know we knocked them off the number 1 seed, New England. They kind of got, like you said, got hot at the right time. Looking ahead to this season, there is a strong core coming back, but there's also a significant amount of change. My preview on the team will be coming out soon on the Rugby Network. Just send it over to the editors. But James Semple is actually new as the head coach. He comes over from the Utah Warriors. Marty Vail has departed, so we've got some new coaching there. Fair amount of new assistant coaches as well. The kind of Kiwi trio that was very key. Obviously, Andy Ellis there running the ship at 9. Iggy Milner, Scooter, and Waisaki Naholo, they're all gone. But, we're coming back with the Butcher, Dylan Fawcett, Ben Bonato, Kara Pryor, Sam Windsor, Jason Embry, Ed Fido. I mean, certainly a ton of firepower there in the backs as well as, in the forwards to make a strong title defense. In spite of some of the turnover, I would not count them out.
Yes. Alex, how you doing today, sir?
I'm well.
All right. I got a few questions a little bit off of so when we look at rugby in America, okay, with this professional rugby, okay, my biggest issue, and I believe this is at all levels of rugby, because it's hard to compete with the 4 major sports in the United States.
Sure.
Because when you're a pitcher and you're making $10 million a year and you're going to play rugby for this, you're going to go pitch instead of playing 8-man or a flanker.
Right.
So,
well, it depends on how much you like to tackle people. I mean, I tackle people every Saturday for free. So I mean, give me a little money, I'm in.
Hell yeah, yes sir. I'm still doing it at 60 years old. But
there you go.
What I'm saying is, okay, for us to get this game at the next level, to where, because you can't commercialize rugby or soccer. That's why they've never made it in America.
Mm-hmm.
So like in baseball, you got innings. Basketball is 48 minutes, but the first 46 minutes goes 46 minutes, and the last 2 takes forever.
Sure.
So I'm just, this is a big question for all rugby players, okay? What can we do to bring this sport to where we can get national recognition, to where we can, because we got more athletes than anybody in the world, let's be real. But what can we do to get this at a bigger level, sir?
That is the $1 million question, right? So me coming from a media perspective, if I was, hired by USA Rugby or by Major League Rugby, the ESPN offices would have to kick me out because I'd be trying to get that contract with no lesser than ESPN2. And in that vein, because we know ESPN kind of, they kind of rule the sports world here, right?
Yes,
but in that vein, I would think, strong case for a number 2 is Fox Sports. And we've seen MLR break in, start to get some national coverage, non-stream and all that on FS2 last year. And even the MLR final was on FS1, the real deal there. And this year there are going to be more games on FS1. So that's one side of the coin, is getting more exposure, getting into where American sports fans are used to watching their sports, right? Because us diehards, we'll sign up for a free therugbynetwork.com account. But, if you're all my friends I grew up playing basketball with, as much as I bang the door for rugby, they're not going to go sign up even if it's free. I mean, but if they might stumble upon it and say, rugby, it's on Fox Sports. Yeah, Diegel plays rugby. Yeah. Oh, it's the final. I'll watch this. That's one avenue. The other avenue that I think it's really worth taking a look at, and I'm not trying to disparage what MLR is doing. I'm here to cover and promote MLR, and it's been great in a lot of ways as far as, I think, raising the level of rugby's exposure, general sport of rugby's exposure in this country. But as far as raising the level of play for the national game, we're talking about two different things. So you can raise exposure, but not raise the level of play for the national team, which I think, as we can see, we didn't make the World Cup. We're kind of seeing a little bit of that two-sided coin, right? We're getting on one, but the national team didn't make the Rugby World Cup. I think there's an argument to be made about making a USA, a true USA super squad, if you will, that's training and playing together all the time. I mean, I would love, it's kind of like what the American Raptors are doing, but I would love if that was all the best American players in MLR doing what the American Raptors are doing, playing in the SLAR. And I mean, maybe it is, maybe we just don't know it yet. Maybe it's going to take 8 years. Maybe the American Raptors are going to have that effect, but I would love to see something of a hybrid of the model of the American Raptors and what MLR is doing, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes total sense, because what I think we're failing, and I mean, this is just, now I've played 30 years, okay? And I didn't have the luxury of playing when I was younger, because, I played college ball. I played full court basketball 35 years. And I believe in conditioning and training all day. And the problem with most American athletes, especially when it comes to rugby, is they take the game for granted. Once they think they got the, like you've played against, if you play lower level rugby and you play against these guys that play D1, I say really the only difference is because they financially set where a D3 rugby player don't have the money. So you got athletes at all levels. The problem is we overthink this game. And when I watch us play at higher levels, it's just like, why are we doing all this crazy stuff instead of just sticking to fundamentals, man? And everybody's like, well, you'll get beat at fundamentals. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Other sports, it works pretty good. You know what I'm saying? So we need to work more on that to get fundamentals. And, that way I believe our level of rugby in America would come up more instead of trying to be cute with the sport, if you get what I'm saying.
I do, 100%, and that's something I'm looking forward to seeing with the coaching change with USA Rugby. I really enjoyed working with Gary Golden. I loved his story of how he kind of rose to being a prominent head coach. But there's an argument to be made about having somebody that come up the ranks in America and knows American rugby best, coaching the American team, right? And oh God, forgive me, I'm completely blanking on his name. The Life University coach, arguably the best coach in America.
Oh, we know
has taken over.
We do life well in this region for sure.
Yeah, has taken over as USA Rugby's coach, and I'm really excited to see what he can do, kind of steering the ship there.
Well, yes, and sorry to interrupt, but I think our old coach Zuch, who's he's a Hawaii Harlequin, he was an all Navy prop himself, but he just always argued that the outreach, I mean, there's a lot of untapped talent, especially out in this neck of the woods, that's not getting recruited to where these California kids, Arizona, BYU, wherever they're coming from, those guys are really getting looked at more, and they're missing a lot of the players out here, really. And I mean, do they ever get any kind of look at all? But that's kind of the refreshing to hear you say that with the life guy, because maybe you can't kind of bring that over here to the
Scott
East Coast.
Lawrence. I'm so sorry, I couldn't remember his name. I was like seeing his face in my head, and I talked to him. Scott Lawrence. Yeah.
It's hard to remember all these names, ain't it?
Okay. Let's get. You can get. We're talking more about the game to grow with Alex down the road. Let me get back to New York real quick. What kind of what kind of style do you think we'll see from them this year with their new core? Is this going to be? They're going to be defense physical. They're going to be high flying offense. What do you kind of look for with this team?
They're going to continue to, I think, play an expansive brand of rugby. That's always kind of been their calling card. Got a pretty good close relationship with their GM Stephen Lewis from actually like covering in club rugby days when I was writing for Rugby Today. And we've stayed in touch, and I've got a direct line to him. Anytime I talk to him about style play, it's expansive. I have no doubt that's changed. And and bringing in the new coach Semple from Utah. I mean, their best season 2 years ago, or they were playing high flying rugby. I think that New York will be a little bit more balanced than what we saw from that Utah team that was very Mikey Teo and Mika Kruse oriented, and certainly they have danger men. New York does, and as some of the backs I mentioned before, Ed Fideau, Jason Emery, those guys. But they also have always have had some really powerful, hard charging forwards. I mean, even it was a quote that didn't make it in my article, but the transcript with Coach was, if Ed Fideau's scoring in the corner, it's because Carapire covered a rock. So you're going to see that balanced attack. You're going to see some good high level, tries and scores, score lines and like that, but it's going to be based off balanced hard work and the forward setting that platform.
And you talked about New England. They're the team that they beat last year, 21-14 in the Eastern Conference Final. The Free Jacks 13-3 on the season. Now they're going to have a strong core returning under Coach Scott Matthey, but they're going to have to. They're looking more towards some Canadian players to help fill their holes, right? How about the Free Jacks 13-3? That's a big record. Can they kind of duplicate what they did last year?
I think they can. You hit the nail on the head. They brought in some big Canadian talent, Ben Lesage, Spencer Jones, to help out the midfield. There's going to be a big hole to fill with Bodine Waka, who was the MLR Player of the Year. But I think they've brought in enough firepower to do it. They brought in a couple new fly halves as well, both with strong resumes behind them. And Canadians in to bolster the forwards as well. So I think that they are going to be right in the mix yet again. Filling in the fly half position is going to be the big question, but there's plenty of talent all the way around in the midfield to help do that.
All right.
So here's another question, right? So once we get to the higher level rugby and these practices, do they do much conditioning, or is it all scheming and just knowledge of the game? Everybody knows the game by then, but what do they really work on at in the MLR? What do they work on as far as in practices? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I do know that there's conditioning for sure across the league. I mean, even just talking today with Ryan Fitzgerald, the GM from Nola, he was saying how up the boys were chemistry wise, and and he referenced specifically the Bronco, which I think any rugby player who's been around knows that drill. It's kind of the ultimate fitness drill there, and I was saying how hyped the boys were that their the two best Broncos. It was a tie, I should say, in the Broncos time. Their best was 4:37, and I was able to not so humbly state that the reporter he was talking to actually ran a 4:30 Bronco this past season. So, but
Oh man.
but yeah, so Yeah, I do know for a fact fitness is a big aspect of these preseasons. Talking to Sam Harris, he was talking about kind of the same thing. They were running their Broncos. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly getting the game plan down, but, game plan only goes so far if you're fit enough to execute it.
The players who are signed, that's actually a good question because you have the OTAs in football. Everyone knows, they have the voluntary mini camps. They have an official preseason. And, Nola, they had a preseason game. They beat Dallas last week.
Sure.
I'm not so sure of any of the other preseason games, to be honest. But what is the routine for a Major League Rugby player who is signed? They start getting their act together, tapping into the team sometime around December. How does that really work?
I think the majority are coming in around January. I know that's been a bit of a complaint criticism from coaches from other countries that are coming in internationally. Right. It's really kind of a 6-week ramp up. And I asked, I can't remember who the coach was when I was doing the previews last year, what the typical ramp up is for, internationally, what they do. And he said it's 12. So it really is a crash course on everything. Fitness, obviously you're hoping that these guys are taking it seriously and they're coming in, professionally fit. I, at the club level, and as I said, with, my not so humble brag on the Bronco time, I'm keeping myself fit around all year round. I certainly hope that these professionals are, and I think for the most part they are. But certainly fitness is part of it, but I think that 6 weeks has to be a crash course in game plan.
Are the Free Jacks the favorite to win the East, in your opinion? And what kind of form do you think, I think they're known for being a tough physical team last year. What do you expect to see as far as styles go for them?
Boy, they're certainly in the mix, right? I think we're going to see probably last year's top 3 finish in the top 3 again. Again, are the Free Jacks going to finish in the top seed? I need to see the fly-off production voting. Waka was such a dynamite player last year. I think they're going to be right in the mix. New York and Rugby ATL. I mean, talking about a Scott Lawrence coach team, that was his team for the first couple of years before they parted ways, and Scott's resurfaced with USA. But those coaches there were still, they coached with Scott for a long time and still has that identity. And when you play a hard physical brand of rugby like Rugby ATL does, you're always going to be in the mix. The rest of the teams in the East, we'll see. I mean, I know Nola's really excited and hoping they can get back to being, right. They always quite just barely missed the playoffs before last year. Kind of the wheels came off. I think they're very excited about what they can do this year. They've had a busy off season, bringing in Dougie Fife from New England. So that's another piece. Actually, New England lost in one of the MLR's top try scorers, but Nola had a big off season trying to, like I said, get the ship back on the track, get the train back on the tracks, and they've got a really strong forward pack. Anytime you're able to have Cam Dolan slotting in as a lock and other USA players and the loose forwards, you're looking good.
That's another team that's really done really good with the community too down there, Nola, right? They have the Gold Mine, which is an attractive field. It seems like when I follow them, there's a lot of positive outreach there with the community. They have part ownership with a French Super 14 team, if I'm correct with that. So that's very important. I think, man, that if that's the case and you have that kind of backing, then only good things can come for the Nola Gold down the road. But go ahead and talk about them in that aspect.
Connecting with the community. I mean, I played down there. I played against Nola in their first ever preseason game. They didn't have a stadium yet. They had a pretty rabid fan base coming from the New Orleans rugby community. I mean, you touched on it. They've done a great job connecting there. I would say, pretty up there with kind of those raucous crowds you can see on TV or on the Rugby Network with, right there with, as I said, Austin had Noxie, and Seattle pretty often had a full house. So, I mean, New Orleans is always a great place to party, and a rugby game is always a great place to party. So they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. That's for sure. So So here's another off-base question here. So international teams, right? Obviously don't have all the sports that we have like we have here. So rugby is one of their main things between that and soccer.
Sure.
They start off, 4 and 5 doing that, where here we are, with a football, basketball, baseball type of thing. So if America was to start off at that age group, do you think eventually we would be able to dominate the sport?
So these next 5 to 10 years are very exciting for me to watch as, someone that's been involved in the club game from, 19 to going on 35 now. And, I'm at the in-between phase where like I am playing, my coach was my first fly half, and now I'm playing with his son as my scrum half. So as his son grew up, as the son of an excellent fly half, I'll shout out the Ross family, Dan and Jonah Ross. His son's a great player. And, unlike Dan, unlike myself, he didn't start playing at 19. He grew up with a rugby ball in his hand. So let's see, as this, as kind of the little bit older of my generation's kids are growing up, like having a rugby ball in their hands, let's see what that generation's going to do to try to like impact American rugby. Like, I'm really excited to see how it fills out at the highest levels.
Yeah, that's a key because, like I said, I didn't start playing until I was 30. And,
right.
I played semi-pro football, and I was trying to live that dream out. That didn't work. And I tell you what, I wish I'd have started rugby when I was younger.
When it seems like they get, the kids get influenced when they have the sevens on with the Olympics. I feel like that's when you get a peak of an influence. And it's almost like you need to kind of strike while the iron's hot at that moment in time. And that's when you get the kids hooked. Because they had the Perry Bakers of the world, Carlin Isles of the world to look for. These guys are exciting to watch. I mean, they're running from 80, 90 meters tries, running through tackles. And sevens is a fun brand of rugby. But is there something to say about that? Just maybe kind of getting some more professional content on the airways. We talked about Major League Rugby, and you're a great advocate, Alex, trying to pound down the doors of ESPN. But we need the Six Nations on right now and stuff like that, correct?
Yeah, I think that, it being on Peacock now is a huge boon for picking up. I mean,
it is on Peacock. I did notice that watching soccer.
Right.
So I watched because it was on there. I was actually watching. Yeah.
Right. It's, it's the next, I think it's a little bit of that fringe where maybe only the rugby crowd's going to look, but it's a step in the right direction. Like, it wasn't that long ago that I was streaming the Six Nations, like stealing it on Reddit. Don't come find me, FCC. But now at least like there's an avenue that I can legally watch it in high definition. So I think to your point, would it be great if it's on, NBC on the grandfather station there? Yeah, but maybe we're building toward that. And as far as sevens, that is the exciting brand to kind of get people in. I mean, when I've brought in like a non-rugby base to like watch a game or try to get them hooked, like, or just, when I've retweeted and, my non-rugby fans or friends have seen it on my timeline, they respond, they get it because it's just pure athleticism in a huge space. So, I mean, I'm excited to see what TR7s can do. I mean, for being such a young league, expanding to 2-3 new cities in its second year. They just announced Pittsburgh. I think there are a couple other expansion cities this year. And they, again, also have a Fox Sports contract. And so we'll see if that can start.
Oh, yeah. That's getting a little bit of legs there, huh? That's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nola, okay, they play the Free Jacks in their first game. So I guess we'll find out a lot about them. If they are going to be, we'll find out a lot about both these teams. I mean, you're going to have obviously some turnover from year to year as this league is now in its 6th year. Did you know that, Dayle? 6 years now for Major League Rugby. That's impressive. That it's that's kind of a win in itself as far as the sport goes, I think. But Nola, we'll find out a lot about them against New England. What do you expect from them? I see that they have a huge pack from our boy Doc down there. But is this going to be a high-flying team again? You think this is going to be more of a physical team? What might we expect to see from them?
I think ideally you're going to see a little bit of both. I mean, they do have a really exceptional pack, but their brand and their identity has always kind of been, they can ring 50 points up on them. The coaching change late in the preseason last year really kind of shook the team to its core. But now King Thompson's had a second year, a full preseason to kind of put his identity on the team. And talking to Ryan, like I said, it's a good time. I just talked to him a few hours ago, the GM there. He's really excited about what he's seeing in the preseason, seeing in that first preseason match, and thinks they're going to get back to, being that team that can stand you up defensively, but also just run it out wide for you. I mean, again, like I said, Dougie Fife, big name to come aboard, but also there's going to be a number of additions that in the 9 and 10 spots that aren't going to be super familiar, quote unquote name brand names, but they're going to be making a name for themselves. So Nola's a team to watch.
And let's see, next team on the list is the Toronto. I wanted to talk about them. Dayle, what would you do if you had to take Newport News Rugby on the road for 6 straight weeks and play 6 straight away games? I mean, that is a lot to ask for a rugby team, and that's what you're going to get with the Toronto Arrows, is they'll play their first 6 games on the road, citing mainly weather concerns up there in Toronto. But obviously those players with concerns never played on the 15 inches of snow, giant ice shard that I did at Appalachian State when I played for Radford, in which we all got lost and went to the wrong state, Tennessee, afterwards. If you ever been from Radford to Boone, North Carolina, you know that Tennessee is not on that route at all. But that's what happened to us after that hard-fought game in the snow. But Toronto, they've been a high-flying team. But last year they had a little bit of a regression from what they showed, what they can do from the year before. They have a good core. They've added some talent. They're looking to get back to their dominant ways in which they had the biggest point differential 2 seasons ago. How about it? Toronto 8-8 last season, 6 straight games to start on the road, and they hope to be the fastest show on grass rugby style per se. Break them down, Alex.
Yeah, so that 6-game stretch is going to be key. And talking to Pete Smith for the preview, he's really identifying that is more of an opportunity than a hurdle. And being that, not a tremendous amount of turnover, but some turnover, as there is for every team year to year. So he's looking at that 6 weeks where they're the whole team's just kind of eating, breathing, living, playing together as really a bonding opportunity to get these guys together maybe earlier than some of the other teams have. So I'm saying if they can get 3-3, even 2-4 on that 6-week stretch, look out for them when it comes playoff time, because the converse of that, the flip side of that, is they're going to be playing home heavy toward the end of the season when other teams might be beat up, might be dealing with injuries. Yeah.
So what I would say to my players in that case, right? If you really love the game, which obviously you must love it if you're playing at that level, but you have to take it as hey man, we're going on a vacation here. We're going down. You know what I'm saying? You got to make it optimistic for these players, because the last thing you want to do is, because in lower level rugby, a lot of times you get these guys who are man, we got to travel again. Again. Yeah. Look, man.
All your memories are made on the road for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to just be optimistic, and you got hey man, this is going to be a vacation, man. We're going to do this after we play this match. Something in there, you know what I mean? And just, if you can do that and make it to where your players are loose, the worst thing you can do is go in there being uptight all day. And if you do that, you could be in a bad situation. But if you go in there playing loose each week and have fun, you can come out on the plus side of that. That's my take on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's a little bit of what Coach Smith was alluding to. Fortunately for these guys, they're contracted. They're going to be there. I can remember when I was playing for Potomac Exiles, having some rough travels with some light rosters down to Norfolk, down to near your
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, down to your neck of the woods. So, you on the club difference being there is you're on the club side with
and you see
16
that
or 17 guys.
they're 35 deep on the other sideline too, and you have your 18
Exactly.
guys saying, "All right, here
Yep.
we go."
Yeah, exactly. So, on the professional aspect, absolutely. I mean, everybody there, like I said, is contracted. It's not like, oh man, like I have to stay here for like my wife's baby shower or whatever. But and then you can, I mean, you're there. You're not rushing to get back and get back to your family either on Saturday night. Like you're there with the boys. Like that's what you're there to do. So I think that's a little bit of what Coach Smith was getting to, of kind of making it like a family, a vacation atmosphere, like after the game, obviously.
And I guess getting out of Toronto does have its bonuses too. As cold as it is up
Right.
there, keep me down in the South.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Anything else we should know about the Arrows before we move on?
Just a few of their additions. They'll sound familiar. Travis Larson for sure. Corey Thomas, like I said, not a huge ton of turnover. You're going to see Lucas Rumble, Mike Shepard leading from the front foot. Sam Malkin's back. So, I think they're going to be an exciting team.
Rugby Atlanta, they were 11-5 last year. Their coach is Steve Brett. They returned 26 of their 34 players. I read in your article. So that's great. That's a big core coming back. They lost to New York 26-19 in the conference semifinal. Obviously, if you have that many players coming back, you have that continuity going for you. That's going to play somewhat, that's going to give them at least a little bit of advantage, maybe over some of these teams with newer faces. Definitely early on, maybe not so much as the season progresses, but that's going to be, I guess, if that's the case, then a hot start for Rugby Atlanta might be something we may look at. Alex, what do you think? You think they can get off to a pretty good start here and keep that momentum through the spring?
I certainly would. Like I said, I expect them to be, playoff bound. They've been successful in each of their full MLR seasons. A well-coached core there coming from the kind of the Scott Lawrence branch. As you said, bringing back a strong core and talking to Captain Matt Heaton, talking to Heath. That's really what he identifies as kind of the strength of this team, is how much of it has been coming back year after year. I mean, 26 out of 34 this year. I'd be willing to bet there's 3 years it's still a high number. I bet some of the lowest turnover you'd see across the league. I mean, Heath has been there, Damon Torres has been there, Jason Dom's been there, Johan Momsen, Jason Dom, Ryan Reese is on his second, maybe third full year. But yeah, I mean, expect this team to come hot out of the gates. They know each other quite well.
All right. At Atlanta, 11-5, what kind of form, what might we look for them? Again, high flyer kind of team. You think they're going to put a lot of points up? You think it's going to be tough to score on them?
Defensive and gritty. Yeah, I mean, you have Kurt Coleman, Harley Davidson's back and certainly put points on the board, but defense is going to lead the way in physicality.
So lower scoring games than Atlanta may be a good
that.
bet. How about you, Dale? What you got for Alex here?
Well, it's the first time talking with you, and I love your insight and everything. One thing about this sport, the laws change every year, and it's hard. Another thing hard for Americans is to keep up with everybody's names.
Sure.
So when it's not televised all the time, it's hard to keep up with names. Like in NFL, when I was a kid, I could tell you every starting lineup, NBA, MLB, I tell you all the lineups, everybody, the backups. But like in rugby, it's really tough to do that. Man, who are the 23? I know it sounds like, I know you've heard this question before, but I guess the only way to do it is like you need to watch it and research it, correct?
Yeah, I mean, watch and learn, right? Like, again, kind of experiencing rugby through a little bit of a transition era. My first half of my career was so hard to find and watch rugby unless like you had the money, which I didn't, of like the expensive Fox Sports package of like, the international, what came with like the international soccer games. So, I mean, yeah, we're getting the transparency there now that we can watch week in, week out. We don't need, shady Reddit streams. We can sign up for Rugby Network account. We can tune in to Fox Sports 2. And like you said, get to know these players, these tremendous athletes, these guys that are truly doing it for the love of the game. We're in that stage right now in Major League Rugby that, believe it or not, it wasn't even that long ago, 50-some years ago, relatively speaking, that, Franco Harris, the number 1 overall pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, was taking the bus to practice, to training camp. That's kind of the stage we are all in right now in Major League Rugby. So it's just time to embrace it. Don't compare it to what the NFL or what the NBA is right now. Think about Franco Harris taking the bus to training camp.
So that's actually
That's really
an
good.
interesting point about knowing these players, because as when I was young and they gave you that number 4 or 5 jersey when I was playing lock or second row, as you
Sure.
call it, old school way, you were told, you didn't have a name on a jersey because you were known as a number. That's part of the team. That's part of the team dynamic. These players in Major League Rugby would actually benefit by having their names on the back of their jerseys. I'm assuming that they don't do that. Do any of these teams have their names on their jerseys, Alex?
That's an excellent point.
I think they do. Unless I'm mistaken, that is something they started last season. Unless it was a trial, because I specifically remember talking to George Killebrew, and because a lot of the old guard was upset about the players' names being on the back of the jersey.
It's important for the marketing for this sport,
and it's exactly, it was important for him for the marketing. So I really think, without having seen a game since last summer, I really think they are on the back. I certainly know at the very least it was a trial.
Okay, all right, good deal. All right, so we'll look for good things from Rugby Atlanta. We got one more team, and we'll let you go, Alex. We appreciate you coming on for all this time here on Wednesday night. But Coach Josh Sims, GM Marcelo Blanco, the DC Old Glory, 9-22-1 in their 2 seasons here in Major League Rugby. Looks like they've had a decent amount of turnover of players, 3-13 last year. Looks like they're going to look into the South American market to bring some talent up from the Southern Hemisphere. Well, you know what? The team, when you don't have a good season, it's almost like you're playing with house money coming into this season. Do you look for big improvements for this team?
I do, and I'm realizing I'm talking up every team. I'm not trying to. It's just being an eternal optimist.
Competitive
I'm
balance.
falling into the themes of my own articles, where it's like everybody thinks they can win the MLR, win the Shield this year. But yeah, definitely expect improvement. Specifically, I'm hearing from Old Glory camp. I mean, no surprise, Kurt Baker, the New Zealand, Sevens legend there. But more of a surprise, a name that people are going to learn pretty quickly is Tito Bonilla, the new fly half there, are really looking kind of like super impactful players this season. So look out for Old Glory kind of getting back to, maybe that form that was 4-1 before they were cut off in their first season. Breton Palamo is looking good again. It's a big recovery season injury-wise from him. We have a trio of forwards that have since last year gotten a number of caps for USA Rugby. Jack Escaro and Corey Daniel. Those are 2 local products to shout out there in Silver Spring, Maryland, and DC. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, Jameson Fatanana Schultz. He had some caps before, I believe, but now added a number under his belt. So, they're kind of with the South American names that we here in America aren't familiar with. They're a little bit of a wild card, but that makes them exciting, right? Like they can come out of nowhere with those guys. Yeah. Obviously, we saw what happened with, us getting knocked out by a couple South American squads and not making the USA, not making the World Cup. Rather, there's a tremendous amount of talent that Old Glory is now diving into to bring here into MLR. It's
actually a pretty user-friendly place to get to out there in Leesburg, as far as Northern Virginia and DC, the DC metro traffic up there. So being out in the western part of Northern Virginia with Leesburg, with a really nice stadium too, Alex. You've been there, obviously, right? Say something about that place.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's outside of the kind of the confines of the city, so you can get there very, very drivable, which isn't always the case in the DC area. So yeah, a great facility. You know, they always have that kind of one corner pack, good tailgating. I can always like pick off some of the teammates or former players that I saw or former opponents, I should say, in the crowd there having a good time. So yeah, another great venue for an MLR team to thrive in.
You got any, one last question for Alex, Dayle? Anything?
No, I'm going to learn this. I'm going to learn all these players. You know, like I said, I'm coaching Newport News. I'm the president of them. I'm going to try to win the national title at D3 and move up to the next level and just get better. And
They're going to be good, Alex. Pay attention for Newport News, I'm telling you.
I'm
right.
going to get better at coaching, everything else with the sport because I love it. Even though I'll be 61 this year, I'm going to try to do it up, and I'm getting ready to go to play Fort Lauderdale 60 and over in 2 weeks, sir.
And trust me, Alex, when Dayle looks at his team in the eyes on Thursday night after practice and tells them to put the Rugby Network on their app and watches them do that with their phones so they can watch rugby on Friday nights before they play their games on Saturday, best be assured that will be happening at the Newport News practice there coming up.
Fantastic. The only way to get better is to watch and learn.
Yeah, that's right. Alex, we appreciate it, man. We'll go ahead and let you go. We thank you for coming on, talking about the East, talking about some other stuff. And then we'll tag you one more time next week, and hopefully some down as the season progresses. We got until July anyway to talk Major League Rugby and everything that happens with that. So we appreciate your time, man. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, guys.
Take care.
All right.
All right, Dayle, we'll go ahead and take one more break. We'll come back. We'll do our Down on the Farm segment, and we'll call it a night on our first show. I think we're doing pretty good here on Initiate the Contact.
Oh, yeah, I enjoyed that segment. I learned a whole lot there, sir.
I'm Stephen Murray. Dayle Runner is with me. We will be back right after these messages.
That was
I'd go down, she'd go down, we both go down together. We'd be alright in the middle of the night, going down together. If I were the marrying kind, which thank the Lord I'm not, sir, the kind of man that I would be a referee, sir. I'd blow hard, she'd blow hard, we both blow hard together. We'd be alright in the middle of the night, blowing hard together.
Hey, does your home have algae or stains on the siding? Is there grime built up on your deck or brick patio? Coastal Pressure Washing Services has a warranty of professional services. From pressure washing to window cleaning to deck and fence staining, as well as dryer vent cleaning, you got it all. Call Coastal Pressure Washing at area code 757-439-9810 or visit our website at coastalpressurewashing.net. Again, call Coastal Pressure Washing at area code 757-439-9810 or visit our website at coastalpressurewashing.net.
Tired of your swimming pool's diatomaceous earth pool filter, the constant cleaning, green pool, cloudy water? I thought this was supposed to be clean. Trust your swimming pool's water quality with a custom sand filter install. A clean, easy solution for your swimming pool operations. Contact Dependable Solutions at 757-354-5517. Do you want to advertise with Deep End Broadcasting? Send us an email at deepend757@yahoo.com. That's deepend757@yahoo.com.
Know your gambling limits. Don't ever bet what you can't cover. Wagering on sports is only fun when you do it the right way. Not every bet will win. When you get on a bad run, know it and avoid trouble. Know your gambling limits.
Control your alcohol. Don't fight. Don't drink and drive. Your one punch could kill someone. It happens. If you're behind the wheel, you may think you are fine, but then the other driver is under the influence of texting, and then you are done. Control your alcohol.
Family owned and operated, CP Shuckers Cafe and Raw Bar specializes in delicious cuisine, refreshing drinks, and a laid back atmosphere. We opened our doors in 1995 and have enjoyed being a place to either relax or celebrate ever since. Whether you are in the mood to indulge in a great meal with your friends and family or watch the game, we promise that our inventive menu, attentive service, and skilled bartenders will have you truly satisfied. Both of our locations have spacious outdoor patios for enjoying the breeze and catching a little sun. Our friendly staff at CP Shuckers will make your next dining experience a pleasant one by delivering personal care. We are open until 2 a.m. Full menu will be served until 10 p.m. and late night limited menu until 1 a.m. For larger parties, please give the location of choice a call. Pacific Avenue, 757-425-8676 or Shore Drive, 757-412-2929. More information at cpshuckers.com. Thank you for your continued support and have a shuckin' good time. Tired of your swimming pool's diatomaceous earth pool filter? The constant cleaning, green pool, cloudy water? I thought this was supposed to be clean. Trust your swimming pool's water quality with a custom sand filter install. A clean, easy solution for your swimming pool operations. Contact Dependable Solutions at 757-354-5517.
This is the Deep End Broadcasting Network.
If I were the marrying kind, which thank the Lord I'm not, sir, the kind of man that I would be a rugby fullback. I find touch, she find touch, we both find touch together. We'd be alright in the middle of the night, finding touch together. If I were the marrying kind, which thank the Lord I'm not, sir, the kind of man that I would be a wing three-quarter. I'd go
I love the song. I really do.
That thing is wild, ain't it?
Dale, I feel so much more rugby smarter, don't you, after that segment with Mr. Alexander Diegel?
Oh yeah, he broke it down, and the thing was, we asked him basic fourth grade questions, which you need to ask. You don't need to be complicated and ask doctorate degree questions. You need to ask basic fourth grade questions because everybody in the nation needs to know the game at the basic level, and then everything else with it. If you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that leads us into knowing the game, our Down on the Farm segment.
Down on the Farm segment.
So you talked about it, Dale. Let's start there. If you don't know how rugby is comprised, if you're listening and learning about rugby for your first time, basically it goes like this. Everything's under the umbrella of USA Rugby. Major League Rugby does not have anything really to do with USA Rugby, so know that. Underneath USA Rugby would be your Super League, which would be your Major League Rugby equivalent, but not nearly what the MLR has going on now, I think. I mean, they're getting the bigger contracts. It seems like they have a lot of steam heading here now into their 6th season. But under USA Rugby Super League, and then you have basically your Division 1 teams, your Division 2, and your Division 3. Coach Dayle coaches in the lowest division, Division 3. And, that's no knock. That's just where we are in this neighborhood of Rugby, Dale. We got a bigger Division 1 team here in Norfolk, a couple other Division 3 teams, Newport News, your team, and Virginia Beach, also a Division 3 team, which is a team that I'm proud to say I was one of the founding fathers of the rebirth after they took a couple years off. Don't actually do anything with the team now. I need to get some old boys stuff going on with them for sure. And I'm sure some of the guys are tuning in tonight. I know my old coach, Jeff Maw, gave a big thumbs up about this show. So he'll be tuning in at some point. Yeah, if you can't catch us live, then you can always catch the replay on our YouTube channel, and everything goes to the YouTube through our Deep End 757 website. So I know you get us on Twitter, the Facebooks. If you're a YouTube subscriber, you get that right now. But just go to Deep End, DEEPEND 757.com, and that's your link to all of the shows. All right. So down on the farm, Dale, Division 3 rugby, Division 2. How about that, man? All right. Did you guys have any problem getting the lights on for a field here? These are some of the problems as a Division III down on the farm team you might have. You're not practicing right now because you can't get lights on the field because no one from the city will come turn them on until they summarize the bathrooms or something like that. Any issues like that with the squad going on right now?
Oh, Lordy. That's so funny, Steve. You know, I got to say this first. Deep in 757.
Yeah. There you go. We're going to have to, I can actually record that when we get a chance. But go ahead.
So, going back to what Steve was saying, you know, at lower level rugby, right? It's not like, you know, these other sports, you know, like these families that got money like lacrosse and soccer. A lot of these rugby communities don't have the money. So where I coach at over in Newport News, when John Lawrence recruited me in 1993 when I came out, I went with him over there and, you know, I played against other teams, you know, and I had a lot of people recruit me for other teams that wanted me to come play with them. I played with Virginia Beach 1 year because I lived 1 block away and I could walk down to Virginia Beach Elementary School, or I would drive 40 miles over to play in Newport News. So I walked to, you know, Virginia Beach and played that 1 year in 1999 it was. But then I came back to Newport News. That's my home. I couldn't go against Johnny Law and all the other boys, you know. And, you know, Norfolk's recruited me. They seen how I play. I played some higher level rugby. I played a little bit with Philly Whitemarsh when I was TAD up there a couple times. So I don't want to get too enthralled with everything because, man, this could go on for like 3 or 4 hours because I'm so passionate about rugby. I love the game. Let's talk about Division III and Division II, which is the only difference is you might have 10 more players at Division II than Division III, and you might get a B-side game nowadays. It used to be a law where you had to have a B-side game at Division II and Division
Yeah,
III.
you had to play 2 games.
You did that, or you get penalized.
Not now, not in the days of injuries and stuff like that.
Not today. I sort of like both ways because the other way holds your team accountable.
B-side is what has held some teams together by the thread too. When you have an A-side that's playing, not playing so well, and you got the B-side bombers that can come out there.
Right.
Now, I remember being undefeated on the B-side, where our A-side only won 1 game all season.
Yes, sir. You're correct on that. So, like I said, I've been with this club since '93 when we had this guy Rich Britton come over, you know, and he from 2001 to 2004 we were really good. Then he left. I tried coaching in 2008, but I was going through a divorce and everything. And I really couldn't concentrate on a game of rugby. We went 3-3. And then, I gave it up to the younger guys and let them handle it. They didn't do too well because they didn't put enough work in. And then Rich came back, and I was the president when he was the head coach for 3 years, and we won the division all 3 years. And then I gave the presidency up to some younger guys, and they didn't do nothing for a couple of years. And I saw the way the club was going. We had a couple other guys try to coach, but they don't do no all-site work. So the team failed. So me and John Lawrence took over last March. And we've always wanted to do this. Man, we've been together 30 years. We fight on the rugby pitch when we play together. We fight when we coach. But we're like, like we're oil and water. But when it comes to the last thing, we're going to win these matches. So at Division II and Division III rugby, it's not a lot of tactical rugby, kicking way back and forward, 60 meters down, 60 meters back. You don't have a lot of that. Because if you do get into a kicking game like that, unless you have somebody who can really kick, you're wasting your time. And what that does is get your team in trouble and you turn the ball over. So there's a lot of things at lower level rugby that you have to do that you don't have to do with Division I rugby and Super League. Whereas at Super League and Division I, you're going to have the numbers come out automatically. So when you get to lower level rugby, you have to show these kids that you care for them. So like, let's say I get 25 players for my first practice. Then I have 5 of them that don't show up. So this old Maori taught me this. This guy came over and played 2 years with me. He said at the lower level rugbies, you have to call people and you have to talk to them. And you have to let them know that you care about them and you want them out there, regardless if they have any talent or not. You want to keep these people coming out there because it's more than just them on the pitch, because they might know somebody that's a great athlete or they got a great work ethic and they're going to be good to the rugby community. So rugby is different than any other sport other than, I would say, wrestling. Rugby is very disciplined, okay? So we have referees, okay? And there are going to be some bad referees. There are going to be good referees. And there are going to be ones that make bad calls and going to make ones that favor other teams. This, that, and the other is going to happen. It's the nature of the beast. But the way you take care of it as a team is by winning your games. And by winning your games, you need your players to come out to practice. So when you have two sides at every practice, whether it's Division 3, 2, 1, Super League, you're going to be better than somebody that has 6 or 7 players that come out to Tuesday and Thursday practice. And then on Saturday, you all of a sudden have 20 people who show up that you didn't even know were on the rugby club. But you've got them sipped and they've paid dues somehow. But those teams are not very successful. So what I do at Newport News, I got John Lawrence as a backs coach, and I got Mark Fisher as my forwards coach. We put out the work plan, the practice plan prior. We got 6 practices ahead of time. We go over different things. One thing at our level, we're going to condition, and we're going to be in shape, because if you're in shape, you can be in correct position and you can tackle properly. Those 3 things are the most important things at Division 3 and Division 2 levels. Then you got the other stuff like rucking, mauling, technique, and all that. That all comes, that's fair and well. But the 3 previous things I mentioned are the most important things. If you can do all that, you will stay in every game and have a chance to win 90% of your matches. So what I'm going to do at Newport News Rugby, I'm going to try to get us to win the national title this year. We went 5-0 in the fall, and we averaged 56 points a game. We only gave up 9. So my goal is to score 60 points every match and not to give up 10 or 15. I don't care about offensive rugby. I care about defensive rugby. And if our defense keeps us in every match and we're in better shape than the other team, we're going to win. Because I don't see too many Division 3 or Division 2 teams having that dominant of players. James River's really good in Richmond. Rappahannock's decent up in Fredericksburg, which we do play them on the 25th at Crittenden Middle School. So I learned about this game more and more every year. There's other coaches that know more about the game than I do, as far as this drill, that drill, this, that, and the other, this law, that law, and all this. That's all good and dandy, but that's not what wins matches. What wins matches in rugby is dedication, getting your players to believe in the system, having attendance, people who pay into the system and want to win matches. And if they do what the coach and staff ask, and all the players show up to every practice and give you 100%, you're going to win 90% of those matches. I guarantee it. So my goal from now on out is to win a national title. And then eventually I'm going to move up. Our team is going to move up because I'm going to get 45 to 50 players out there. And I'm going to have 2 divisions, a 3 and a 2. And I know a lot of people have frowned on Newport News Rugby for a long time, but I'm going to change the culture of it. And I'm going to work hard at it. And all I need is players to come out and play, and us old boys will take care of everything else. So we got a good pitch over there at Crittenden. It's almost regulation. The city has afforded us lights. We took over that field in 2005. We used to play up there, right there on J. Clyde Morris and Warwick, around the corner. But we took over the Crittenden Middle School field. Jeff Sykes allowed us to do it, and George Fasella, God bless that man, who's helped us out. And
Yeah, big supporter of the lower leagues down here in the area.
Yes.
And the high school rugby, when that had a lot of steam too, he funded the high school leagues, right?
Yes, sir, he did. George funded all that, but we didn't have enough people who wanted to do enough work,
Right.
offside work. you know, you got a lot of people that can coach. They know the game, this, that, and the other, but they're not going to do anything else other than that. So that's why teams fail. That's why rugby teams fail.
The teams are made not even anywhere close to the pitch. They're made here, like at the desk, sitting right here on the telephone.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully by shows like this, we grow the sport.
Yes, and what I want to do is promote the state of Virginia. So all the teams that have ever been in the state of Virginia, Blacksburg, Blackwater, Rocktown, Virginia Men, Blackwater, James River, Richmond, Rappahannock, Newport News, Norfolk, Virginia Beach. Hear me out when I tell you, you must talk to your players. You must call your players. You must hold your players accountable. If you do not do that, you will lose 2 or 3 players here and there because they will not be interested. Today's society, you have to show interest. If you do not do that, then you will not be successful in rugby. And I know a lot of people say, well, these kids need to be more responsible and just show up. I hear what you're saying, and it sounds good on paper. But paper don't win championships, okay? I'm going to tell you that right now. So the coaching staff and the executives of the club have got to do a lot of work off-site, Steve, like you were saying. You can't just expect players just to come out there. You know, when you're winning, when you're breeding winning, that gives you hope right there.
Good story, Dayle. So I'm at we play sevens at one of the local parks down here every Thursday night. We'd have the sevens go around.
Yes, sir.
Round robin sevens, pickup games, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So I parked, and for whatever reason, I just didn't park where I usually parked. I parked in a different spot of the parking lot, which matters a lot in this case because that took you a different angle to approaching the rugby pitch for that Thursday. And next to the pitch are a bunch of trees, kind of like a wooded area. So if you don't necessarily take the path that I did that night, then this story never happens, to be honest. So I park in a different spot, and I walk towards the pitch, and here comes a player walking past me with his boots in his hand, and he's heading towards the parking lot. And I just simply asked him, what are you doing? He's like, man, it looked like that, the one team out there has a bunch of players that, I think they're trying to get them a bunch of game time. It just didn't seem like that they had a lot of room for me to run with them tonight. And I said, hey, man, we're here with another team. Why don't you come run with us? Bruce Kelly ended up being an excellent fullback for the Virginia Beach Falcons for almost 10 years. And an assassin and a well-respected teammate too. So just by, and you never know what kind of answer you'll get if you don't, you better ask questions, people, because a lot of life's mysteries are never answered if you don't ask them yourself. Right. And you'll be amazed at the answers that you get of some things if you do ask questions. So just asking Bruce that night, hey, man, where are you going? This kid walking out to the parking lot with his boots. He turned around, played with us, played a good 10 years or so. I thought those are the moments that make the sport what it is, especially down on the farm in the lower leagues, right?
You're right, sir. I recruited a guy at the shipyard, Steve Allen. When you look at Steve, you would never think he would do anything. You wouldn't think he'd have anything to do with rugby. So I just mentioned it to him. This guy's a big man like yourself, Steve. He lives down in Savannah, Georgia now. He was in the shipyard, but he moved. Plays front row. But you would have never known this guy would ever even come out to the rugby pitch. But I just mentioned to him one day, I actually was trying to recruit one of his mates who looked athletic, like he could do this, that, and the other. He never showed up, but Steve showed up, and now he's been playing for 10 or 12 years.
It's kind of the same story with me. So I lived with my freshman year in college at Radford University. I lived with one of my high school friends, and one of our other high school friends lived way across campus, but he decided to come over and hang out with us. And he brought his roommate who played rugby. And this guy was Army. He was he'd have drill every month. He'd have to go away for the National Guard and stuff like that.
Right.
But this guy, I said, yeah, hey, man, you're a big guy. Have you ever thought about playing rugby? And I said no, and never thought about it. He goes, come out to this interest meeting that we have. And the interest meeting when I got there was a keg. It was a bunch of loud, fun people. And they had, if you remember the video, 101 of the greatest tries on VHS that they put in. And I sat there and said, man, I could play this. Not knowing if I could play it or not. I had a wrestling background or whatever. But we got into our first full 15s scrimmage after that. And my first time I cut the ball, I made some pretty insane maneuvers, juking some people, and people didn't really know where that came from. I'm not so sure I knew where that came from myself. Right. But man, imagine if I never have met that guy. I think his name was Matt. I can't even remember at this time. In 1991, in September, I think it was August, actually, August 1991, Radford University. If I never met him, Dayle, I probably never would have met you, and we wouldn't even have this show right now. How about that?
Ain't that fantastic? Because John Lawrence, bless that guy's soul, because that dude is the biggest clown, jokester, love him to death. He used to be the fastest player in the VRU. Johnny Law could run a legitimate 4.40. That dude was fast as all, man. He could play tennis with himself. But when he recruited me, he called me the B word in front of 30 people. And, man, me, my ego was killing me, man. I was just like, oh, no, he cannot call me out like this in front of everybody. I got to go check the sport out, right? And I went over that night over at Warwick High School, Steve, and John said, just run straight and tackle. Okay. Dave Vincent was out there. He's the the president of the new enterprise now. Dave was our fly half for 10 years. George was out there. Scott Miller, one of my better friends, painted by Scott. Scott's a good old boy. Marty, all these guys, man, I was just like tackling. They're like, man, we need to keep him out here. I'm like, all I'm doing is tackling, man. It's not like I didn't know nothing about rugby. I was just doing what John said. And playing that Ed Lee Cup that weekend, fell in love with it. I played 4 games. I was so sore. But it was a soreness that was like I fell in love with it because it's a sport I never did, right? And I wanted to prove to these guys, man, I can dominate the sport. I never played, higher. I mean, I played higher levels, but really played D3 and D2 my whole life. But, I played some higher level. I could play with them guys because I played some semi-pro football back in the day. So I had the athletic ability, just didn't have the knowledge of the rugby game when I was younger. And I didn't start till I was 30, unfortunately. I wish I would started when I was like 10 or 12. But you know what, man? I'm going to keep playing. I'm going down to Fort Lauderdale here in 2 weeks. Me, John Lawrence.
Yeah, Dale's only retired about 5 times by now, people. So if you expect him to give some kind of retirement speech and not play again, then that's not going to be the case.
So, Steve, you remember, that's funny you bring that up because the first time I said I was going to retire, we were playing. You had the tournament over at the Sportsplex.
Right, yeah.
Me, you, and Crutch were on the field. And I made like 3 or 4 tackles, man. I was beat up. Man, I was sore. And I said, I got to retire from this game. This was 10 years ago. I was 50. And you're like, yeah, Dayle, whatever. And Crutch said, Dayle, you didn't say that 5 or 6 times. Now it's been 500 or 600 times. I ain't giving this up, man. I'm going to play as long as my body will let me. Obviously, I can't do the things I once did. But I'm going to keep playing 40 and over, 45 and over. I can still play with them guys, man, because I'm fortunate I've never had no major injuries. But everybody come out, whatever area you're in, play rugby. If you know somebody in your area, get them out there.
Just show up to practice.
Just show up to
practice. That's all you have to do.
Show up.
You'll show up. You'll have a bunch of new friends. And then even then, Dayle, when you get on a team, you can travel to other cities and go by any other team's practice, and they'll welcome you in.
We have some terminology in rugby, right, that's foul to a lot of people, but it's fun to the rugby community. So like when I go to Fort Lauderdale this next weekend, I might what they call is horn in. And no, I'm not getting paid to be a prostitute like a hooker in the front row. But I go and play with another team to fill in the gap. And that's what horn in rugby is. And that's what we do. That's how much we love the game. So Steve and I have been playing against each other 30 years, you know, however long, 20, 30, whatever it is. Been together on the same team. We play old boys, young guns together. We've been good friends, talk about everything. And I want to thank him for allowing me to come here and do this rugby podcast with him. And we're going to continue this every Wednesday night. And I hope people will come on board because I got 20 months before I retire from the shipyard. And I want to do something like this for my rest of
all of your rookies, Dale, they need to write 500-word essays about what they learned on the initiate the contact on Wednesday nights and turn it into you first thing at practice on Thursday evenings. I think that would be a good way to get more viewers for sure.
Yes,
Okay, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for the evening. We want to thank Alexander Diegel from the Rugby Network. He came in. He broke down the Eastern Conference with us. Sounds like it's going to be wide open. A lot of good teams with a lot of good potential there. And we'll get the Western preview from him next week. We'll talk some more down on the farm stuff as well. And Coach Dayle, you're truly motivational in your rugby ways at 60 years old working out.
And Steve, one more thing. Watch my Sunday videos on rugby. I do them all the time. I do everything. Watch my Sunday videos.
We'll tweet out Dale's Facebook so you can go ahead and add him, people. We'll tag him, too, on our Facebook. That way you can go ahead and add Dayle. You get the latest from him. And, yes, his Sunday commentary you don't want to miss. He keeps you up to tune properly in this world. All right, this is Initiate the Contact on the Deep End Broadcasting Network. We will talk to you next Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, have a good night.
We'd be all right in the middle of the night, blowing hard together.